Okay, tonight's class is on the Constitution. This is the culmination of the 700 years of history, bringing us all the way up through the different speeches, the Federalist Paper, the Declaration of Independence, the Federalist Papers, bringing us up to the Constitution. So this is kind of the culmination of the history and everything of where we're at in this, the supreme law of the land. And then the next 6 weeks is going to be a series from the John Birch Society called The Constitution is the Solution. It's a series of 6 videos, and it kind of takes all of this from the beginning through tonight, and it puts it all into context for the 20th century and into the 21st century. And I think it does a good job of tying this class up in a nice little bow and calling it done. So with that, tonight is the Constitution. Let's do a little history on it. The U.S. Constitution established America's national government and fundamental laws and guaranteed basic rights for its citizens. It was signed on September 17, 1787, by delegates to the Constitutional Convention in Philadelphia, presided over by George Washington. Under America's first governing document, the Articles of Confederation, the national government was weak and states operated like independent countries. At the 1787 convention, delegates devised a plan for a stronger federal government with 3 branches, legislative, executive, and judicial, along with a system of checks and balances to ensure no single branch would have too much power. The Bill of Rights, 10 amendments guaranteeing basic individual protections such as freedom of speech and religion, became part of the Constitution in 1791. To date, there have been a total of 27 constitutional amendments. America's first Constitution, the Articles of Confederation, was ratified in 1781, a time when the nation was a loose confederation of states, each operating like independent countries. The national government was comprised of a single legislature, the Congress of the Confederation. There was no executive or judicial branch. The Articles of Confederation gave Congress the power to govern foreign affairs, conduct war, and regulate currency. However, in reality, these powers were sharply limited because Congress had no authority to enforce its requests to the states for money or troops. Soon after America won its independence from Great Britain, with its 1783 victory in the American Revolution, it became increasingly evident that the young republic needed a stronger central government in order to remain stable. In 1786, Alexander Hamilton, a lawyer and politician from New York, called for a constitutional convention to discuss the matter. The Confederation Congress, which in February of 1787 endorsed the idea, invited all 13 states to send delegates to a meeting in Philadelphia. On May 25, 1787, the Constitutional Convention opened in Philadelphia at the Pennsylvania State House, now known as Independence Hall, where the Declaration of Independence had been adopted 11 years earlier. There were 55 delegates in attendance, representing all 13 states except Rhode Island, which refused to send representatives because it did not want a powerful central government interfering in its economic business. George Washington, who'd become a national hero after leading the Continental Army to victory during the American Revolution, was selected as president of the convention by unanimous vote. The delegates, who also became known as the framers of the Constitution, were a well-educated group that included merchants, farmers, bankers, and lawyers. Many had served in the Continental Army, the colonial legislatures, or the Continental Congress, known as the Congress of the Confederation, as of 1781. In terms of religious affiliation, most were Protestants. 8 delegates were signers of the Declaration of Independence, while 6 had signed the Articles of Confederation. At age 81, Pennsylvania's Benjamin Franklin was the oldest delegate, while the majority of the delegates were in their 30s and 40s. Political leaders not in attendance at the convention included Thomas Jefferson and John Adams, who were serving as U.S. ambassadors in Europe. John Jay, Samuel Adams, and John Hancock were also absent from the convention. Virginia's Patrick Henry was chosen to be a delegate, but refused to attend the convention because he didn't want to give the central government more power, fearing it would endanger the rights of the states and individuals. Reporters and other visitors were barred from the convention sessions. which were held in secret to avoid outside pressures. However, Virginia's James Madison kept a detailed account of what transpired behind closed doors. In 1837, Madison's widow, Dolly, sold some of his papers, including his notes from the convention debates, to the federal government for $30,000, which is huge money then.
Yeah.
Okay, we're done with you. You decided to quit. To understand the Constitution, we must first have a good grasp of the principles in which it is founded. And that's what this whole exercise has been, bringing us up to this point. If you know the history and the why behind it, the what becomes easy. This is best done by reading the Federalist Papers. These were a series of essays written by Alexander Hamilton, John Jay, and James Madison, the father of the Constitution. These essays, along with their opposition essays, known as the Anti-Federalist writings, give us invaluable insight into the architecture of the Constitution, as well as the meticulous way that the institutions of our government were constructed. James Madison was convinced that how we set the institutions up were of more consequence to keeping personal liberty than anything else. So, republic. The word republic comes from the Latin res publica, meaning the public thing. Well, what is the public thing? The law. The law is the public thing. So if you remember, when we were subjects under the king, we were subjects under the king. On July 2nd, 1776, with the Lee Resolution, we were no longer under the king, but we became subjects of the law. We were under the law. But we were under the law by consent, not by decree. So, if we look at the definition of republic, number 2, a body of persons freely engaged in a specified activity. One of the keystones to republic is representative government. It has to be representative. Democracy. Where does that come from? Well, that comes from the Greek, the two Greek words, demos kratos, meaning the masses rule or mob rule. Okay, number 3, belief in or practice of the idea that all people are socially equal. That's a democracy. So you can see why I get nauseous every time I hear democracy come out of a politician's face. The founders created a compound republic. How do we know that? Where's that found? Federalist 51, right? The founders created a compound republic. In the words of James Madison, not a democracy. The founders believed that because all are created equal, all have inalienable rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Not guaranteed happiness, but the pursuit thereof. Under a democracy, then all are guaranteed the same happiness. Because of the false notion that all are socially equal, your happiness probably won't look like my happiness. Samuel Adams had this to say about democracies. Remember, democracy never lasts long. It soon wastes, exhausts, and murders itself. There never was a democracy that did not commit suicide. Remember, as tumultuous in its life as it is violent in its death. This compound republic is best defined by James Madison with this quote from Federalist 45. The powers delegated by the proposed Constitution, the powers delegated by the proposed Constitution to the federal government are few and defined. Those which are to remain in the state governments are numerous and indefinite. The former will be exercised principally on external objects as war, peace, negotiation, and foreign commerce. The powers reserved to the several states will extend to all objects which in the ordinary course of affairs concern the lives and liberties and properties of the people and the internal order, improvement, and prosperity of the state. The Federalist-style national government was intended to have external power and when there were disputes between states. The Republican-style local government was intended to have all the domestic power. This is very clear by Madison's comments in the Federalist Papers. The Constitution begins with a preamble and then is broken down into 7 articles. Each article is broken down into sections. Each section is broken down into clauses. Article 1, the legislature. It has 10 sections. Article 2 is the executive article. It has 4 sections. Article 3 is the judicial article. It has 3 sections. Article 4, states' relations. It has 4 sections. Article 5, amending the Constitution, has 0 sections. Article 6, the supremacy clause and oaths, has 1 section. Article 7, ratification of the Constitution, has 0 sections. Now, that right there, to be able to articulate Articles 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7, and to say what they are, is a 5th grade, should be a 5th grade ability. A 5th grader should be able to tell you that. Do you know how many people that I talk to in all different states that are holding positions, both federal positions and state positions, and local positions in government, that can't answer a 5th grade question? But of course, they swear to me that they've read the Constitution. Okay. So the preamble starts out, we the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity, do ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America. There used to be a time in grade school where kids had to memorize that. It's not too much to memorize. Article 1, the legislative article. Section 1 deals with Congress. Section 2 deals with the House of Representatives. Section 3 deals with the Senate. Section 4 deals with elections. Section 5 deals with powers and duties of the House. Section 6 deals with the rights and disabilities of members. Section 7 deals with legislative process. Section 8, the definite powers of Congress. Remember in 45 where it says the federal government has defined powers, enumerated powers? Those are found in Article 1, Section 8. That's important for people to know. Because if you want to know, when you're watching the news, when they say, well, Congress come up with a bill on this, you look in those 18 clauses and you'll find out that they didn't have the power to do any of that. Section 9, powers denied Congress. Section 10, powers denied the states. Now, why would Section 10 be important? The 10th article of the Bill of Rights says that the state, anything that they didn't delegate to the federal government or denied to them by the Constitution, they have the rights to do. Well, if you want to know what's been denied by the Constitution, it's right there. Article 2, the executive article. Section 1 deals with the president. Section 2, powers and duties of the president. Section 3, other powers and duties. Section 4, impeachment. Article 3, the judicial article. Section 1, judicial powers. Section 2, jurisdiction. Section 3, treason. Now it defines treason there. A lot of times I hear everybody, if you use a word too much, like everybody's Hitler, or everybody's a racist, or when we use words too much, and we go, oh, that's treason. Is it really? If you want to know what the definition of treason is, look in the Constitution. It's right there. Article 3, Section 3 will tell you exactly what treason is. Article 4, states' relations. Section 1 is the full faith and credit section. Section 2, interstate comedy. Not ha-ha, but money. Interstate comedy. Section 3, admission of new states. How do new states come into the Union? Section 4, federal obligations to states. Article 5, amending the Constitution. Article 6, the Supremacy Clause and oaths. Section 1, national obligations. Article 7, ratification of the Constitution. It is by itself. That is the 7 articles and the sections that are in them, in the Constitution. Now you're going to see most people start reading the Constitution, they'll get halfway through Article 1 and they'll go, oh my gosh, I can't read this whole thing. Well, by the time you've got halfway through Article 1, you're more than 5/8 of the way through. Okay, Article 1 is the largest. And why do you think that is? What branch of government is the largest and most powerful branch of government? The legislative. So it makes sense that Article 1 would be the largest article. Correct? Takes a lot of words to tell them what their limit is. Article 1, Section 1, Congress. All legislative powers herein granted shall be vested in a Congress of the United States, which shall consist of a Senate and House of Representatives. Bicameral, right? Article 1, Section 2, the House of Representatives. Clause 1. The House of Representatives shall be composed of members chosen every second year by the people of the several states, and the electors in each state shall have the qualifications requisite for electors of the most numerous branch of the state legislature. Clause 2. No person shall be a representative who shall not have attained to the age of 25 years and been 7 years a citizen of the United States, and who shall not, when elected, be an inhabitant of that state in which he shall be chosen. Article 1, Section 2, Clause 3. Notice in the yellow, those words have been struck from the original Constitution by a particular amendment. Okay? 3, representatives and direct taxes shall be apportioned among the several states, which may be included within this union according to their respective numbers, which shall be determined by adding to the whole number of free persons, including those bound to service for a term of years, and excluding Indians not taxed 3/5 of all other persons. What article do you think changed that? 16 and 13. All right, 13 and 16. The actual enumerations shall be made within 3 years after the first meeting of the Congress of the United States, and within every subsequent term of 10 years, in such manner as they shall by law direct. The number of representatives shall not exceed 1 for every 30,000, but each state shall have at least 1 representative. And until such enumeration shall be made, the state of New Hampshire shall be entitled to choose 3, Massachusetts 8, Rhode Island and Providence Plantations 1, Connecticut 5, New York 6, New Jersey 4, Pennsylvania 8, Delaware 1, Maryland 6, Virginia 10, North Carolina 5, South Carolina 5, and Georgia 3. What do you think Article 1, Section 2, Clause 3 is talking about? Census? The census. Everybody tries to get out of the census every 0 year, right? 2020 was a census. 2030 is going to be a census. 2040 is going to be a census. What's the census for? To make sure that we have representative government so that each congressional district has about the same amount of people. That's what it's for. So when people try to thwart the census, you're only thwarting representative government. Article 1, Section 2, the House of Representatives, Clause 4. When vacancies happen in the representation from any state, the executive authority thereof shall issue writs of election to fill such vacancies. Who's the executive authority of the state? Governor. Clause 5, the House of Representatives shall choose their speaker and other officers and shall have the sole power of impeachment. Article 1, Section 3, the Senate, Clause 1. The Senate of the United States shall be composed of 2 senators from each state, chosen by the legislature thereof. See that in yellow? What amendment changed that? 17. I complained about it ad nauseum. Everybody should have known 17. Easy. For 6 years, and each senator shall have 1 vote. Article 1, Section 3, Clause 2. Immediately after they shall be assembled in consequence of the first election, they shall be divided as equally as may be into 3 classes. The seats of the senators of the first class shall be vacated at the expiration of the 2nd year, of the 2nd class at the expiration of the 4th year, and of the 3rd class at the expiration of the 6th year, so that 1/3 may be chosen every 2nd year. And if vacancies happen by resignation or otherwise during the recess of the legislature of any state, the executive thereof may make temporary appointments until the next meeting of the legislature, which shall then fill such vacancies. Come on. Work with me here.
Are you saying that the yellow has always been deleted?
Yeah, the yellow was in the original Constitution, but if it's yellow, it's been struck by one of the amendments. So we'll have to go to the amendments and look and see what struck that. But if you notice, when we look at the amendments, we had a few. First we had the Bill of Rights. Then we had a couple. Then we got into the 20th century. It's like we couldn't get enough of them. It was boom, 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 right? Well, if you look at all of them in yellow and you start looking, you can see where all the natural law checks and balances were in the Constitution. The progressives did their darndest to strip from the Constitution. And the people, being the true masters of the law, being ignorant of the law, allowed it to happen. Article 1, Section 3, Clause 3, no person shall be a senator who shall not have attained to the age of 30 years and been 9 years a citizen of the United States, and who shall not, when elected, be an inhabitant of that state for which he shall be chosen. Clause 4, the Vice President of the United States shall be President of the Senate, but shall have no vote unless they be equally divided. Clause 5, the Senate shall choose their, I love how they spell choose, C-H-U-S-E. Get used to the Old English, because it's in your founding documents. The Senate shall choose their other officers and also a president pro tempore in the absence of the vice president, or when he shall exercise the office of President of the United States. Article 1, Section 3, Clause 6. The Senate shall have the sole power to try all impeachments. When setting for that purpose, they shall be on oath or affirmation. When the President of the United States is tried, the Chief Justice shall preside, and no person shall be convicted without the concurrence of 2/3 of the members present. Now, if somebody gets charged with murder, but they go to court and they're judged not guilty, can we call them a murderer? No, because you're innocent until proven guilty. That's the system of our justice, right? So when we start looking at impeachment, there's so many people that do not understand it. It is a political trial, but it's very similar in its makeup as a criminal trial. just because the House of Representatives brings papers or votes for impeachment, that is like the prosecutor charging you with murder. But the trial is held by the Senate. And if the Senate does not judge you guilty, then have you been impeached? Nope. But if you listen to CNN, you wouldn't know the difference, would you? Yeah. No fact checking there. But it's important to know. Clause 7. Judgment in cases of impeachment shall not extend further than the removal from office and disqualification to hold and enjoy any office of honor, trust, or profit under the United States. But the party convicted shall nevertheless be liable and subject to indictment, trial, judgment, and punishment according to law. So if someone commits murder, they can be impeached, but the impeachment is not the criminal trial. The impeachment is to remove them from office. It's a political trial. The criminal trial can preside right after that. Article 1, Section 4, Clause 1, the times, places, and manner of holding elections for senators and representatives shall be prescribed in each state by the legislature thereof, but the Congress may at any time by law make or alter such regulations except as to the place of choosing senators. Article 1, Section 4, Clause 2, the Congress shall assemble at least once in every year. 1861, they'd gone over that year. They broke the Constitution. So the Congress shall assemble at least once in every year, and such meeting shall be on the first Monday in December, unless they shall by law appoint a different day. Article 1, Section 5, Clause 1. Each house shall be the judge of the elections, returns, and qualifications of its own members, and a majority of each shall constitute a quorum to do business. But a smaller number may adjourn from day to day and may be authorized to compel the attendance of absent members in such manner and under such penalties as each house may provide. Clause 2. Each house may determine the rules of its proceedings, punish its members for disorderly behavior, and with concurrence of 2/3 expel a member. Montana just expelled a member of their representatives in their state legislature. It's getting real, folks. Article 1, Section 5, Clause 3, each house shall keep a journal of its proceedings, and from time to time publish the same, excepting such parts as may in their judgment require secrecy, and in the yeas and nays of the members of either house on any question shall, at the desire of 1/5 of those present, be entered on the journal. If you remember when, does anybody remember Tip O'Neill when he was Speaker of the House? And they were going for they wanted to raise the wages of the House of Representatives. And Newt Gingrich was pushing for it took 20% to make a roll call vote. That's what that was just talking about, 20% to get a roll call vote, 1/5. Tip O'Neill was completely against it. And when he was on Meet the Press, his argument was, well, we don't want to do a roll call vote because if people are upset about who voted yay, then they'll get voted out. Yeah, that's called the process. That's called the process, Tip. Hello. Okay. I haven't read 4 yet, have I? Neither house during the session of Congress shall, without the consent of the other, adjourn for more than 3 days, nor to any other place than that in which the two houses shall be sitting. Okay? Why is that? 700 years of history, right? We saw how they would move things so that they could get what they wanted. They didn't want that happening here. Article 1, Section 6, Clause 1, the senators and representatives shall receive a compensation for their services to be ascertained by law and paid out of the Treasury of the United States. They shall, in all cases except treason, felony, and breach of the peace,